Tuesday from the Center for Work and Family Life, your employee assistance program. Today we're going to be talking about coping with grief during a pandemic. So as all of us know, it's been a really difficult several months since last March, and we're all dealing with the psychological impact of COVID-19. And it's causing people to lose their sense of safety, security, predictability, control, and freedom. And as we're dealing with this type of grief, it's distinguished in two different ways. One is change, and change is the external and the environmental and situational issues that are happening. For example, the pandemic, the civil unrest, the social injustice, the fires, the hurricanes, and all the financial implications are situational, environmental, and external. They're out of our control. Transition is how we deal with it personally as individuals and how each one of us processes the change and the grief and the loss of what we're contending with. And at the same time, we're all dealing with multiple changes and situations and crises going on all at the same time. Plus, every single person has their own set of issues and things they're dealing with right now in their life as well. And it's a lot for people. So what COVID-19 triggers for people, for some people and many people, they actually lost a loved one who passed away from COVID, which is very, very sad. And there's also other types of losses related to COVID-19. There's a loss of routine. And we don't realize how attached we get to our routines, how attached we get to getting up every morning, getting ready, driving to the office, seeing our coworkers, maybe going to lunch with our coworkers, socializing, dropping kids off at school, going to church, our temple, our place of worship, going to the gym. There's a lot of things in our routine that we're so used to and we're very attached to. And then all of a sudden, we lost all of that for most of us. And trying to adapt to that has been really difficult. The stay-at-home restrictions. To stay at home, and it changes. Sometimes it's really working from home, staying at home, having kids learn from school at home, and basically the only thing a lot of people do is go to the grocery store. But now it's starting to lift a little bit, and people are being able to go out a little more, go out to dinner, and things like that. But then that could change too. We don't know. But it's really a change for us. We haven't, in our lifetime, any of us right now have never experienced anything like this. So it's a whole new way of living for all of us and looking at things and reflecting. It's very hard. And many people have changes in their job. Either they're essential workers and they need to go to work and haven't been able to stay home, but they're much more concerned about their safety and security at work. Some people have work from home, and that's been a really big change for people. Sometimes working from home, there's pros because you don't have traffic, and sometimes you get closer to family, but then sometimes there can be more tension among family members, which can be hard. For some people working from home, they feel isolated and alone, and that can be difficult too. There's health. Some people have gotten COVID and fortunately have not died, but they still may have some lingering effects from COVID, and it's affected their health. Other people have health issues, but because of COVID, they haven't been able to take care of their health as well. They've been frightened to go to doctors, frightened if they don't feel good to even go to the emergency room, frightened to go for procedures that they normally would have, annual procedures. So it's affected them in that way. Those of you who are parents, the research, all the surveys show that who's really having a difficult time during this are people with kids. And it's so difficult with children learning from at home, so social or distance learning. It can be so difficult because for parents who are working at home, you're on your Zoom calls and trying to manage your Zoom meetings, and you're trying to also manage your kids while they're taking online classes and to try to keep them focused. And it's hard for different children at different ages. So for a child who's in kindergarten, it can be really difficult and it can be really stressful for the parent. And then it's also the internet. Do you have enough internet? It doesn't work well. Is there places in your house where you can work and your spouse partner can work and the children can work? It's a lot to think about and a lot to manage. There's also the grief about the ability to gather in person with family and friends. And we've all dealt with that. People are celebrating their birthdays and special occasions differently. And a lot of times they're doing it via Zoom, and they don't get to see their loved ones, and especially elderly loved ones. People are trying to stay away as much as they can because they don't want to expose their family members to anything. So there's been a big change there. One of the things is coming up is the holidays, and people are rethinking the holidays and how they're going to celebrate the holidays. The holidays can be difficult on many levels, and this year there's extra layer of COVID, and you may not be able to get to see your family or close friends, and you may not be able to fly. So there's a lot to consider. How people shop, things we take for granted, like maybe going to the mall, not being able to do that. Some stores are opening, so that's changing, but it's been the last few months not really being able to do that. And the grief and loss of not being able to worship how you would normally worship and go to church or temple. There's grief and loss and exercise, not be able to go to the gym like you normally would go. And then I have many clients who have adjusted to that and have started walking or swimming, and they haven't even been able to do that because of the fires and the bad air quality. And eating, a lot of people haven't been able to get everything they need at the grocery store. They have to go to the grocery store several times because to get what they need because they may be out of stock of certain things. So their eating habits are changing, the way people seek entertainment, the things we take for granted, like meeting a friend for coffee or meeting a friend for dinner or going to a movie. All of that has changed, although again, it's starting to, the restrictions are starting to lessen, and I think people are appreciating that. The financial impact, that is huge. And many people are experiencing the financial impact. Here at USC, we've already been experiencing, we know next year that USC won't be contributing to our retirement plans. And that's a huge financial impact. Some people have been furloughed where they get their benefits, but they're not getting paid their salary. Some people are concerned they could lose their job and get laid off. Some people's hours have been cut. And it may be you yourself that's worried, or you're worried about a partner, a family member, a close loved one. So there's so many layers of grief and loss related to this pandemic. Then there's the anticipatory grief. And what anticipatory grief is a feeling that something's going to come. Like there's a possibility you could lose your job, or there will be changes at your job. You could lose a loved one who's sick. That's how we anticipate the grief, but it hasn't happened yet. This can create sadness over an impending loss, fear of what will happen, anger over the situation, and feelings of isolation and loneliness. So in grief and loss, we go through stages. So you go through this whether you've lost a loved one, and you can remember going through these stages. You may be going through these stages right now regarding the loss of a loved one, or even the pandemic. If you think back when this first happened in March and April, a lot of people were in denial. A lot of people were bargaining. Oh, it's not that bad. We can go out. And then when they realized they couldn't go out, there was a lot of anger. and that things are going to stay this way for a while. Our lives have changed for a while, and there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of anxiety, sadness, and we're seeing in our office more depression, an increase in alcoholism, an increase in family tension, fights, domestic violence. There's a lot going on for people. So those were the stages of grief. Some of the symptoms of grief you may be feeling and not even know it. And it may be trouble focusing on your normal tasks at work, sleeping much more or less than usual, having interrupted sleep at night, feeling angry and irritable and you don't know why, headaches and upset stomach, physical symptoms, fatigue or low energy, and also with grief, we experience past unresolved grief and traumas. So this may be triggering some other losses for you. We go through a process when we go through transitions. So as I mentioned, there's shock, there's denial, there's grief, anger, fear, and then we hit this sort of place of chaos. It's kind of the worst part of grief, where we're kind of leaving the grief and anger and we're headed towards a place of more hope. But before we get there, it's just an unsettling feeling that you may be feeling right now. And just to try to understand what you're feeling right now, that's important. But then once you move through that phase, you start exploring and you have a new sense of acceptance, new hope, new energy, and new enthusiasm, and a whole new beginning. You can get through it, and you can get through grief, and it can create closer bonds and relationships with the people who are still here that you love. And that's important to realize and think of past times that you've gotten through difficult situations, and you do have resilience, and you will get through this too. So the coping with COVID-19, first, again, you want to pay attention to your feelings, and your feelings are real. And so many people just dealt with this as business as usual. Let's just get through my day, do what I need to do. And their feelings caught up with them. They weren't so aware of their feelings. And then all of a sudden, they weren't able to self-regulate their feelings. Their feelings just came out and they were surprised. Whoa, where did that come from? Or your partner may be really upset and you're like, uh-oh, what's this about? People are holding a lot in and it's very heavy. It's important to practice self-care. And self-care is, again, paying attention to your feelings, having self-compassion. This isn't business as usual. Really having self-acceptance, and that's so important. And think about your strengths. What are your strengths and your coping skills? What has gotten you through things before? And when you think about that, it will help you get through this as well. Stay connected to people. And people are creating a new adaptive routine. So a lot of people are having Zoom meetings with friends. They're having, they're worshiping through stream, through the computer, and attending church and temple through the computer. So they're adapting their routines. They're being creative. That's the silver lining. I have many clients even who are in 12-step AA meetings, and they're doing AA meetings via Zoom. So there's a lot of ways to get that support you need. You just need to be creative. It's also important to limit your news intake. Don't take too much negative information about COVID in by listening to the news or social media. You know, we all can remember 9/11 and the images of 9/11, and they're still etched in our mind. It's so important not to take breaks from that. And remember, this is a journey. So for some people, if there's been a major change in your life, let's say like you may lose a job or your job may look different than it did, don't let that define you. Think of the journey, think of the bigger picture, think of what you did learn from your job, for example, and what you can take from that and move forward. Think of the good memories and the good times. It's important to focus on what you can control. I often have my clients make a list and write down everything they can't control and then everything they can control. And what they find is they can control so much more than what they can't. And it's really themselves, how they cope, exercising, reaching out. And most importantly, finding support with friends and family. And if you want someone neutral to talk to, you can come to our program, the Center for Work and Family Life, and I'll tell you about it. We are here for benefited staff and faculty. You get up to 10 sessions a year free. And right now we are doing phone or Zoom sessions. And you can call us Monday through Friday between 9 to 5 to schedule an appointment with a counselor. So we are here and we can support you, and we can even help you find other resources that you can utilize at this time, and to be creative. And it's in you. You have it in you to be able to manage this and come out even stronger. So I know it's a difficult time for everyone, and this is going to continue for a while. So I just want to tell those of you who are here, that's great you reached out and that you realize that you may need the support at this time, and we're here for you. So take care.